Embarrassed by his black wife, he took his blonde mistress to the ball. But what happened when she arrived shocked everyone. Before we start today's story, comment below where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you haven't already. You won't want to miss what's next. The big crystal lights in the Metropolitan Opera House in New York shone brightly, making golden patterns on the shiny marble floor. Manhattan's richest and most famous people had come for the most important charity party of the year. In the crowd of powerful couples and fancy people, Kalen Vance nervously straightened his bow tie. He had his arm around a tall, blonde woman who was not his wife. For months, he had been telling everyone that his wife, Zara, was too busy with work to go to parties. But the real truth was much worse. Kalen was ashamed of Zara, ashamed of her dark, beautiful skin, ashamed of her natural hair, ashamed of everything that made her the amazing woman he had once loved. Tonight, he thought he had finally won. Tonight, he could show up with someone he believed looked perfect for his world. But he had no idea that Zara had a plan that would change everything. As the orchestra began to play and everyone looked toward the grand staircase, a figure appeared. Everyone stopped and stared. Zara Vance was about to show her husband and everyone else exactly who she was. That morning, the sunlight poured into their big apartment with tall windows showing Central Park, but Kalen barely noticed. He was standing in his walk-in closet, carefully choosing his tuxedo for the Metropolitan Museum gala that night. Zara was in the next room, sitting at her vanity, carefully doing her skincare routine. She always did everything perfectly, and tonight was no different. They had been married for 8 years. For the first 5 years, Kalen had been proud to call her his wife. Zara was brilliant. She had gone to Harvard and designed some of the most amazing buildings in Manhattan. She made a lot of money, even more than many of Wall Street colleagues. She was beautiful. Her dark skin seemed to shine from inside, and she wore her natural hair in elegant styles that made her even more striking. Her smile could light up any room. But something had changed. As Kalen climbed higher at his investment firm, he spent more time with other people whose wives looked very different from Zara, and slowly shame had grown in his heart. Kalen, Zara called from the bedroom, her voice warm as always. What time should I be ready tonight? I know the gala starts at 7. Kalen didn't look at her. I've been meaning to talk to you about that, he said. Zara came to the closet doorway in a silky robe, her hair pulled back in a low bun. Even without makeup, she looked amazing. But Kalen looked away. The Hendersons can't make it tonight, he lied smoothly. So I'm taking their place at the partners' table. It's really more of a business dinner than a social event. You'd be bored. Zara's face fell a little, but she nodded. Of course, I know how important your networking events are. I have my presentation for the Brookfield project anyway. Kalen felt a quick stab of guilt. She always supported him. She always put him first. But he ignored it. Tonight was too important. Tonight, he would go to the gala with Sloane Rutherford, the company's new marketing director. She had blonde hair, pale skin, and looked like the kind of woman Kalen thought he needed to fit in. Kalen had been having an affair with Sloane for 6 months. He told himself it was just physical, just fun. But deep down, he wanted to feel like he belonged in a world that had always made him feel small. I should get going, Kalen said, grabbing his tuxedo bag. I'm meeting some clients for drinks first. Zara walked over and fixed his collar. Have fun tonight, Kalen. I'm proud of you. I know how hard you've been working. Kalen kissed her forehead quickly. I love you, he said, but the words felt empty. As he left, Kalen didn't notice Zara's smile fading. He didn't see her watching from the window as his car disappeared. He didn't see her pick up the phone and call someone she hadn't called in months. Cassian, Zara said when the call connected. It's Zara Vance. I think it's time we talked about the Patterson account. Cassian Valor was a very successful tech entrepreneur. He was rich and famous, But unlike Kalen, he was confident, proud, and unashamed of who he was. He had always respected Zara. 3 hours later, Kalen stood in the lobby of the Plaza Hotel, waiting for Sloane. She came out of the elevator like she had stepped out of a magazine. Her hair fell in perfect waves over her shoulders, and her gown fit her perfectly. "You look amazing," Kalen said, offering his arm. "You too," Sloane purred, but there was something calculating in her eyes. Kalen didn't notice because he was too excited about his plan. The Metropolitan Museum had been decorated beautifully. Its halls were draped in silk and flowers, filled with music and soft laughter. Kalen felt proud as he walked in with Sloane, noticing the approving looks from his colleagues. Finally, he thought he fit in. The shame he had felt for months seemed to vanish. But across the room, a figure entered through a side door with quiet confidence, a figure that would ruin everything Kalen thought he had won. Zara Vance had arrived, and she wasn't alone. 3 months earlier, Zara had started making small changes. She stayed later at work, took calls in the next room, politely said no to dinner plans. Kalen didn't notice because he was too busy with his affair. One day, Zara overheard Kalen talking on the phone to a colleague, Pierce Alisterson. "I just think it's better this way," Kalen said. "These events are about making connections. You know how it is." But Zara heard Pierce reply, "My wife is the most interesting person at these things. I'm just saying she's brilliant." Kalen's cold voice cut through, "I just need to be strategic about how people see me." Zara felt like she had been hit. She had supported Kalen for years, but now she understood. He was ashamed of her, not because she wasn't smart or beautiful, but because her skin was too dark for his idea of success. That night, after Kalen fell asleep, Zara made a decision. She opened her laptop and started making calls she should have made years ago. The first call was to Cassian Valor. "I'm ready to talk," she told him. The second call was to her best friend from college, Thandi, a stylist for celebrities. "I need a complete transformation," Zara said. Now, 2 months later, Zara stood at the entrance to the gala, and she looked amazing. She had worked with Thandi to create a look that was powerful but still her. Her hair was styled beautifully. Her gown was made by an African-American designer, and most importantly, her confidence shone through every move she made. Cassian Valor stood beside her, looking at her with admiration. This wasn't about replacing Kalen. It was about Zara showing her power and worth. "Ready?" Cassian asked. "I've been ready for months," Zara replied. They walked into the ballroom together, and everyone stopped talking. Heads turned. People whispered. Zara Vance had always been beautiful, but tonight she was unstoppable. Across the room, Kalen was introducing Sloane to a client when he saw her. His heart froze. It was Zara, but not the woman he had tried to hide. This was the real Zara, strong, radiant, commanding every room she entered, and she was with Cassian. "Excuse me," Kalen mumbled, leaving Sloane behind. He pushed through the crowd toward his wife, but more and more people blocked his way. Alistair Finchley, Kalen's boss, appeared and smiled warmly. "Zara, what a delightful surprise. I didn't expect to see you tonight." Kalen had been busy at work, making sure everything went perfectly. Zara, his wife, stood across the small circle of people. Her smile was calm and beautiful, and it hurt Kalen more than anyone could imagine. "Oh, I finished my presentation early," Zara said softly. "The Brookfield project got approved this afternoon. Cassian was kind enough to come with me because he knew I was coming alone." Her words were polite and normal, but they cut Kalen straight to the heart. "Congratulations," Alistair said, smiling. "That's a big success. Eleanor will be so happy to hear this. She's been following your career for a long time." As more people surrounded Zara, praising her work and asking questions, treating her with respect, Kalen felt his perfect world start to fall apart. He realized something shocking. All along, it hadn't been Zara's fault. She had always been admired and respected. He had been hiding a treasure while chasing something fake. Sloane, Kalen's mistress, appeared at his side, looking annoyed. "Who is that woman everyone is talking about?" she asked, her voice sharp. Kalen's mouth went dry. He had imagined this evening many times, but never like this. He couldn't explain his wife to his mistress. "That's," he began, but no words came. "That's Zara Vance," someone said from behind. It was Elenina Finchley, looking closely. "She's one of the most talented architects in the city. She's Kalen's wife." Sloane went pale. Suddenly she realized what had happened. She wasn't just Kalen's date. She had been brought here to make his wife look bad, but the real trouble was just starting. Kalen watched helplessly as Zara charmed every important person in the room. Sloane looked fake and nervous compared to Zara's calm, natural elegance. "I need to speak with my wife," Kalen muttered, trying to hide his panic as he drank his scotch. "Your wife?" Sloane's voice got louder. You said you were separated. You said she wasn't in the picture." Kalen tried to calm her. "Keep your voice down. We can talk later." "No, we'll talk now," Sloane said, ignoring him. "I want to know what game you've been playing." Kalen tried to pull her away to a quiet corner, but it was too late. People were starting to notice. Whispers spread across the room. Zara, seeing the commotion, turned to look. "Sloane, please," Kalen hissed. "Not here. Not now." Sloane laughed sharply. "Oh, now you care about what people think. That's funny because you've been lying to everyone here." Alistair Finchley appeared at Kalen's side, looking worried. "Is everything okay here?" he asked. "Everything's fine," Kalen said quickly, but his voice shook. "No, it's not fine," Sloane said. Then she began to speak to the crowd. "This man has been lying to all of you. He said he was separated from his wife. He said I was the only woman in his life." Zara walked toward them, with Cassian at her side. She moved gracefully, like she had been expecting this moment. "You must be Sloane," Zara said politely. "Kalen talks about you often. I've heard about your work on the Henderson account." Kalen felt sweat on his forehead. His wife's calmness was scarier than any yelling could be. "Maybe we should go outside for a little air," Cassian suggested gently, touching Zara's elbow. But Zara shook her head. "No confusion here," she said. "Everything is very clear." She turned to face Kalen fully. In her eyes he saw something that froze him. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was complete understanding. "The only confusion," Zara said, her voice clear, "was mine. I confused loyalty with self-respect. I confused helping my husband with erasing myself to make him happy." Kalen opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Zara looked back at Sloane. "My husband has been ashamed of me, not because I am not successful. I earn more than he does. Not because I am not beautiful, though beauty is different for everyone. He has been ashamed of me because I don't fit the image of a successful man's wife in his mind." The room went silent. Everyone's eyes were on Kalen, their shock and disgust showing clearly. "Zara," Kalen whispered, "please don't do this here." "Do what?" she asked, tilting her head, curious. "Tell the truth? Be honest about who we are? Isn't that what you value in business?" Alistair Finchley's face turned from concern to anger as he realized the truth. "Kalen, is this true?" he asked. "Have you been lying to your colleagues about your wife?" "It's complicated," Kalen stammered. "It's not complicated at all," Zara said gently. "It's simple. My husband has been telling people I am too busy to attend events because he is ashamed to be seen with me. He brought his mistress to important meetings because she looks like what he thinks a successful man's wife should look like." Her words hung in the air. The crowd shifted from shock to disgust. Kalen tried to speak, but Zara stopped him. "Don't make it worse by lying. We both know the truth. The only question now is what we will do next." Sloane, who had been frozen, suddenly spoke. "You can't blame him for everything. He said you two were having problems, that you were separated." Zara looked at her with pity. "And you believed that? Even though we live together, share money, and are married, you believed what you wanted because it made you feel better." Kalen knew exactly what he was doing when he brought you here instead of me. Now everyone knows what kind of man he really is." The crowd watched Kalen's world collapse. Zara was in control, speaking truthfully and calmly. "The sad part," Zara said to Kalen, "is that you were so ashamed of me that you forgot I made your success possible. I paid for your school. I helped you at the start of your career. I celebrated every promotion, every achievement, as if it were my own." Kalen felt tears sting his eyes. These were not sad tears. They were tears of understanding. Everything she said was true. "You erased me," Zara continued. "You made me invisible because you thought I wasn't good enough for your new life." "Zara," Kalen whispered, "I'm sorry, I can fix this." For the first time that night, Zara smiled at him, but it was the saddest smile he had ever seen. "No, Kalen," she said, "you can't fix this. The problem was never me. The problem was you. I can't fix that." She turned to Cassian. "I think I'm ready to leave now." As they walked away, Kalen heard Alistair Finchley's voice behind him. Calm, but sharp. "Clean out your office, Kalen. We'll talk about your departure on Monday." In that moment, Kalen Vance realized something terrible. In trying to trade up, he had lost everything that truly mattered. The weeks after the big gala were full of surprises, but not the kind Kalen had expected. News about what happened at the gala spread quickly through Manhattan. Everyone talked about it. Kalen soon realized something he had never understood before. His wife, Zara, was much more respected and connected than he had ever thought. The morning after the gala, Kalen woke up alone in their big penthouse. Zara's things were gone. On the kitchen counter, there was a note. "I'm staying at the St. Regis while I find a permanent place. My lawyer will be in touch." The lawyer turned out to be Isolde Chen, one of the most powerful divorce lawyers in the city. Zara had hired her 3 weeks before the gala. This wasn't a sudden decision. Zara had been planning her next steps carefully, just like she planned her amazing buildings. Within days, Kalen understood how wrong he had been about his wife. The Brookfield project Zara had mentioned at the gala was not just any project. It was a huge famous building project that was attracting attention from all over the world. Architecture magazines called it revolutionary. Zara Vance was being called a visionary, someone who could change the world with her ideas. Even worse for Kalen was learning what his coworkers really thought of him. He had expected sympathy, but none came. Instead, he felt more and more alone at work. When he finally went to clean out his office, Alistair Finchley's rules made him feel even worse. "You're a fool, Kalen," said his old colleague, Pierce Alistairson, at lunch. Kalen had hoped for support, but Pierce didn't hold back. "Zara was the best thing that ever happened to you, and everyone knew it except you." Kalen tried to explain. "But the image thing," Pierce interrupted. "Image thing? Who cared about her skin color? We cared that she was brilliant, talented, and made you better. The only problem was you." Meanwhile, Zara's life was getting better every day. Her career was taking off fast. The job offer from Cassian Valor was just the beginning. News about her skills spread to networks Kalen didn't even know existed. Networks of successful Black professionals, top architects, and forward-thinking entrepreneurs. Within 2 weeks of leaving Kalen, Zara had received 4 job offers, and 3 of them would pay her double what she was making. She chose to join Cassian's company as Chief Development Officer, a position where she would design sustainable communities all across the country. "I should have done this years ago," Zara told her friend Thandy while looking at all the job contracts in her suite at the St. Regis. "You weren't ready then," Thandy said wisely. "You had to learn your worth first." Looking for a new home was another adventure. The Upper East Side penthouse she had shared with Kalen had never felt like home. It was his choice, his style, his statement. Now, working with the best real estate agents in Manhattan, Zara discovered what she really wanted. She found it in a stunning loft in Tribeca. It had high ceilings, industrial design, and walls perfect for art. It was warm, modern, inviting, everything the old penthouse was not. It's perfect, Cassian said when he visited her new home. It's completely you. Their friendship grew naturally into something deeper, but Zara didn't rush. She was finding herself again, and that needed time. Zara's transformation wasn't just about work or home, it was social too. Freed from trying to make Kaylin happy, she started accepting invitations she had said no to for years. She joined the board of a nonprofit for affordable, sustainable housing. She went to gallery openings, charity events, and conferences where her talent and ideas were celebrated. At a sustainable architecture conference in Chicago, Zara gave a speech about the Brookfield project. People gave her a standing ovation, and the video went viral in professional circles. Suddenly, Zara Vance was famous, and her name mattered far beyond New York. Kaylin, meanwhile, was learning what it meant to lose everything at once. Without Alastair Finchley's firm, he had very few options. Uh, the scandal followed him, and other companies didn't want to hire him. Sloane, who had been in his life, disappeared, leaving him only a harsh text about liars and losers. The penthouse wasn't even his. Zara had bought it herself. Now, Kaylin had to find a much smaller place to live, but the hardest part was loneliness. He realized how much of his social life had been tied to Zara. Without her warmth and intelligence, his world felt empty. 3 weeks after the gala, Kaylin swallowed his pride and called her. "Zara, it's Kaylin. Please don't hang up." There was a long pause. Then she spoke, calm but not mean. "What do you want, Kaylin?" "I want to apologize. I want to explain. I want—" His voice broke. "I want to fix this." "There's nothing to fix," Zara said gently. "There's only the truth to accept." "The truth is I love you," Kaylin said desperately. "I made a terrible mistake, but I love you." "No," Zara replied, firm but kind. "The truth is you loved the idea of me when it was easy, and you were ashamed of me when it wasn't. That's not love, Kaylin. That's possession." "I can change. I can be better," he pleaded. "I'm sure you can," Zara said kindly, "but you'll have to do it for yourself, not for me. I'm done helping you grow." After she hung up, Kaylin sat in his empty apartment. Only then did he understand what he had lost. Not just a wife, but partnership, respect, love, and the chance to be a better man. 4 weeks after the gala, Zara stood on the terrace of her new Tribeca loft, watching the sunset. Cassian was in the kitchen, humming as he cooked. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from friends, colleagues, and new opportunities. She had never felt more like herself. 6 months after the Metropolitan Museum Gala, Zara gave a speech at the International Women in Architecture Conference in London in front of nearly 3,000 women. Millions more would watch it online later. But for Zara, it wasn't just about fame. It was personal. It was about going from the shadow into the sunlight, from feeling small to feeling proud of herself. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice strong and clear, "I want to tell you about the most important building I ever demolished. It wasn't made of bricks or steel. It was made of silence, compromise, and making yourself small to fit into someone else's life." The audience was instantly interested. This was not a normal professional speech. This was personal, deep, and inspiring. "For 8 years, I lived in a building I didn't design," Zara said. "I let someone else decide how big I could be, how visible I could be, and what I was worth. I became an expert at hiding, blending into the background, making sure my light never shone too bright, because I was afraid of embarrassing someone else." In New York, Kaylin sat in a small apartment in Queens, watching the live stream. He felt both proud and full of regret. After losing his job, he had started over at a smaller company, taking a big pay cut. It had been hard, but humbling. "The night I chose to demolish that building," Zara continued, "I learned something important. The people I was trying to impress had never asked me to make myself smaller. That request came from someone close to me, who made me feel my real self was a problem. I rebuilt myself on truth. My intelligence is not a threat. My success doesn't take away from anyone else. My beauty is mine, and no one can decide otherwise. Cassian, sitting in the front row, looked at her with admiration. Their relationship had grown slowly, built on respect and shared values. Unlike her marriage to Kalen, this partnership made both of them better. Rebuilding is harder than demolishing, Zara said, but it is so much more rewarding. You have to become both the architect and the builder of your own life. You must remember who you were before anyone told you who you should be. The audience was silent, listening to every word. Zara Vance was finally standing proudly in her own light, not hiding in someone else's shadow. Zara paused and let her words sink in. The most important thing a woman can do is to love herself, completely and proudly, without asking anyone's permission. When we do that, we don't just change our own lives. We help other women feel like they can do the same. In the audience, many women wiped their tears, nodded their heads, and felt a connection with Zara. They saw pieces of their own lives in her words. Today, Zara continued, I run a company that builds neighborhoods where families can be happy, no matter how much money they have. I live in a home that shows my taste, my style, and my ideas. I spend time with people who celebrate my wins instead of telling me to hide them. She looked straight at the camera, knowing her words would reach women all over the world who were sitting quietly, waiting for permission to shine. But the most important thing I have built is a strong sense of my own worth. No one can take it away because it belongs only to me. I built it myself, and it will last forever. The audience clapped loudly, but Zara wasn't finished. To all the women listening who see themselves in my story, I want you to know this. You are not too much. You are not too smart, too beautiful, too ambitious, or too anything. You are just right. The people who can't handle your light are not your people. The places that can't hold all of you are not your places. Meanwhile, Kalen sat quietly in his small apartment, closing his laptop. Over the past months, he had been trying to understand himself better. He was learning about his own fears, insecurities, and the ways he had hurt others, especially Zara. He had started therapy and joined a support group for men trying to be better. He realized how much damage he had caused, not just to Zara, but to himself. He knew he would never get Zara back, and he understood that this was right. Zara deserved someone who loved and celebrated her from the start, not someone who had to learn it after losing her. Zara said to everyone who had ever tried to make a woman feel small, "You didn't make yourself stronger or better. You just showed how weak you are inside. True strength is not in making others small. True strength is lifting them up." The conference ended with a long standing ovation. All day, women came to talk to Zara. They shared their own stories about choosing themselves, refusing to live in places or situations that didn't make them happy, and rebuilding their lives. That evening, Zara and Cassian walked by the river in London. The lights of the city reflected on the water like tiny diamonds. "I'm proud of you," Cassian said softly. "Not just for the speech, but for everything that led you here." Zara smiled. "You know the best part?" she said. "I'm not angry anymore. I'm not bitter about the years I spent hiding. I'm grateful for them because they taught me something important, the difference between surviving and truly living." She paused, looking at the river. "Kalen wasn't my enemy. He was my teacher, even though neither of us realized it at the time. He taught me that I could survive anything, even betrayal. He taught me that my worth isn't about who sees it, but how clearly I see it myself." Cassian held her hand, feeling her strength. "What do you think he's doing now?" he asked. "Learning," Zara said simply. "At least I hope he is. That man was so desperate to fit in that he hurt the person he was supposed to love. He's suffering too, in his own way. I hope he finds healing." 3 months later, Zara got a letter forwarded from her old address. It was from Kalen, written by hand on simple paper. It was very different from the letters he had written before. Dear Zara, I know you don't have to read this, and I'm not expecting you to answer. I just want you to know that I finally understand what I did to you, to us, and to myself. I've been in therapy for months trying to understand why I thought your light would make mine smaller. I'm learning about all the wrong ideas I believed about beauty, worth, and success, and how I let them hurt the most precious thing in my life, you. You were never too much, Zara. I was too little, too insecure, and too ashamed of myself to see that I was married to a queen. I see now that every time I asked you to make yourself smaller, I was really asking you to join me in my smallness. I don't expect forgiveness, and I'm not asking for another chance. I just wanted you to know that watching you rebuild your life has been both beautiful and heartbreaking. Beautiful because you deserve every happiness. Heartbreaking because I could have celebrated it with you instead of learning about it through news and social media. I am trying to become a better man, not for you, but because you showed me what integrity and love really look like. I hope Cassian knows how lucky he is. He should never make you feel like you are too much. You are exactly enough, exactly perfect, exactly who you were always meant to be. Thank you for 8 years of loving me, even when I forgot how to love you back. Thank you for showing me that love isn't about control, it's about freedom and celebration. Be well, Zara. Be happy. Be exactly who you are. Zara read the letter twice, then carefully put it in a drawer. It was honest and thoughtful, but it came too late for them to be together. She hoped Kalen would keep healing, but she no longer needed to be part of his journey. She was no longer willing to accept small pieces of love from someone who should have given her the world. She would not be anyone's lesson or redemption story. Zara Vance had become a woman who knew her worth, who demanded it from the start, and who would never shrink for anyone again. A year later, Zara was in the garden of her loft in Tribeca preparing for an engagement party. Not for herself. She and Cassian were taking their time, but for her assistant, a young woman who had found love that celebrated her. As Zara arranged flowers and set up tables, she thought about how life had changed. Life changes quickly when you stop asking permission to live it. Things can change fast when you refuse to accept less than you deserve. The guests arrived as the sun set over Manhattan. Zara moved among them confidently. She laughed, talked about her work and dreams, and didn't hide her light for anyone. At the end of the evening, Cassian found her on the terrace, looking at the city lights. "What are you thinking?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her. "Gratitude," Zara said simply. "I'm grateful for everything, even the hard times, even Kalen, especially Kalen. He taught me that I am strong enough to survive betrayal, brave enough to start over, and worthy of love exactly as I am. Those are gifts, even if he didn't mean to give them to me." She leaned against Cassian, feeling safe, valued, and seen. "The quiet, small woman who used to shrink herself is gone," Zara said. "I'm not sad for her. I'm celebrating the woman who took her place." Under the stars, Zara Vance felt complete. She had built a life by her own choices. She had learned the hardest lesson. The most important relationship is the one with yourself. Once that is strong, everything else falls into place. She was no longer hiding in shadows. She stood proudly in her own sunlight. She belonged there. Zara's story is like the story of many women who were asked to shrink to fit other people's fears. It's the story of women who were told they were too much, too ambitious, too smart, too strong, too beautiful. But it's also a story of freedom, of the moment a woman sees she was never the problem, of the moment she realizes people who cannot handle her fullness don't deserve her, of the moment she chooses herself completely and without apology. Your worth cannot be negotiated. Your light cannot be debated. Your right to take up space is not for anyone to decide. You are not too much. You are exactly enough. You deserve to be loved, celebrated, and supported exactly as you are. The most powerful thing you can do is to refuse to live in a place or situation that doesn't help you grow. Destroy what holds you back. Build what makes you strong, and never apologize for taking up all the space your amazing life needs. You are worth celebrating. You always have been.